All right, so this is my 3 favorite release rituals, also known as Goodbye 2020. It's been real. My name is Lisa Danilchuk. I'm an LMFT and ERYT. I will talk a little bit more about that in a moment. Today's December 14th, and it's going just a little slow, so we'll all take a breath and send it our love and support. All right, so nice to meet you. I know tons of you I've known for a very long time, so happy to be with you for this next half hour. Some of you haven't met me before, so I'll just give you the super short crash course on how to pronounce my last name. So it's Lisa Danilchuk. I like to joke, how much wood would a Danilchuk chuck if a Danilchuk could chuck wood? There's a phonetic pronunciation, just in case you need it. Let's see. This is taking a little extra time, but I'll just share. So I'm a licensed marriage and family therapist based in California. I'm also an experienced registered yoga teacher. I'm also the founder of the Center for Yoga and Trauma Recovery, based here in California, but largely an online community as well. All right, so I'd love to learn a little bit more about you if you're new. You're welcome to check out howwecanheal.com, send me a message there, and we can go from there. All right, so today I've got a couple things to cover. The first is, why are my automations taking so slow today? The first thing on our agenda is why release. Okay, so this is a practice that's been super helpful for me, many of my students and clients. And it's always helpful if we are going to practice something to know and to understand why. So from there, I'll talk about how to release, and I'll share with you 3 of my favorite release practices. I'll also talk about using the elements to support your release. And by the elements, I mean earth, air, fire, water. Okay. Now, I always like to start with a reminder to ground and orient yourself. We're not talking a ton about trauma today, but 2020, by many measures and for many folks, was a pretty upsetting and even traumatic year. So in the face of that, it's super helpful just to connect with the earth underneath you in a supportive way. That might be as simple as feeling your feet or your back or your seat on the chair. And also just to orient yourself in time and space. So many of you know I like to look out the window at a tree outside the window and just kind of take in that that peaceful energy that comes with it for me. So this is very individual, and it's important to kind of find what works for you. I always go with the guiding question, what do you need right now, right? So to ask yourself right now, what do you need? And to give yourself that, right? So one thing I always have is water. You can see my 2020 themed mug here, a gift from a friend. So anything that helps support you. And I think one thing that'll help support me is if my slides are working better. So let's all just take a breath together, and I'm gonna actually escape out and screen share one more time. So if you need a quick break to grab a cup of water or to use the restroom, go ahead and do that. What I will do is quit Chrome, what I usually do before we start, but I didn't get a chance to today. And then let's play from the current slide again and see. So resource first, care for yourself, get comfortable, ground yourself, focus in. I know there's a ton, like you probably just saw, I closed like 8,000 tabs on my Chrome right now. I know there's a ton of distractions and things kind of going on in the world right now. So take the time to do what you need to ground and orient yourself. All right, I think it's working a little better now, so yay. All right. And I really can't repeat those things enough. So let's talk about why we might want to release and why specifically 2020. Now in 2020, there's definitely been a buildup of stress, a lot of different stressful things that have happened, including for many of you, loss and grief, definitely some unexpected changes, global pandemic, huge lifestyle changes. Some of you might have experienced changes in employment, career change. There's definitely been a very high demand on healthcare, emergency service, and essential workers, and this includes mental health, right? So many of you in here are supporting a lot of other people. It gets challenging. So even if you're sort of lucky to have a lot of work, it can be a lot to be carrying your own challenges and supporting other people through that. I also think, and I've done other free webinars about this, that we're really on a macro level processing trauma. We're processing a lot of, social issues, definitely here in the States, the Black Lives Matter movement, among other things. We've had here in California lots of wildfires. I think many of us are coming a little bit more face to face with climate change. So these are real threats to our livelihood and our lives this year. And that can bring a trauma response. And it can also bring a diminished sense of routine, of safety, of security, of predictability, right? All of these things we know are really good for kids, right? It's good to have a routine. It's good to have some predictability. They're also good for us, but when we're adulting, it's a lot harder to get that stuff, even in general, without everything that 2020 has thrown our way. So are we releasing the experiences? I mean, the experiences are what they are, they've happened, but we can release some of our reactions to them, what's held in our body, what's in our mind, what's kind of emotionally coming up for us. So with these big changes and big feels, it can be helpful to release that energy, right? That impact. Okay. One of the quotes I love is release the unnecessary so that the necessary may speak. And, sometimes I'll just say, it's good to just connect with the necessary and let it speak no matter what's in the way. But clearing, especially this time of year, also, we do spring cleaning a lot of the time, can help us to hear and see and feel what's at our core a little bit more easily. So I love this image. I actually think balloons are very necessary, so I probably wouldn't release them also because it's not good for the environment. But there's a sense that I get in looking at this of kind of letting things fly away, not holding them so tightly. One of my dear friends and colleagues, some of you know her, Melanie Salvatore August, she'll often say, hold it lightly, right? When you have a goal or you're pursuing something, it's like, let's not, strangle it with our ambition or our attention. So we'll just hold it lightly, release so that the necessary may speak. All right, so here's my first recommendation. I just did this last night, actually. Write a letter to it. Write a letter to 2020. So anytime you're letting go of something, and I've done this with years before, even when they weren't particularly tumultuous, write a letter to it, write a letter to them. So often I'll do this with people, right? If a client has lost someone, if there's someone moving away or a breakup or a death, often we can have all these things within us that we want to say, but we don't quite get the chance to say them, especially not out loud. So writing a letter or even reading it aloud after you write it can be a really powerful experience. So in order to do this, you just need basically paper and pen. It could be a journal. You can get elaborate with colorful writing supplies. Sometimes I love colored pencils, or I'll draw. That's totally up to you and at your discretion. I give it about 10 to 20 minutes, enough time so that you can let what comes up come out. Sometimes I know things like this can feel overwhelming, like write a letter to a whole year. Oh my God, like all the way back in March feels like 10 years ago already. So I like to kind of keep it manageable. Obviously, if you want to go longer, go for it. But even if it helps you to carve out 5 minutes, I think this can be a really amazing process. One year I did this and I actually had my calendar out in front of me, and it made me realize, wow, like I went so many places this year and I saw so many people. And for me, it instilled this very genuine sense of gratitude for all that had happened. And that actually even came up in my own 2020 letter. So I'll give you a sample. This isn't actually the letter I wrote, but it's a little sample. You write something like, Dear 2020. What the F was all that? Seriously. But also I'm super grateful to be alive. I'm really grateful my friends and family are healthy. I'm really sad we lost grandma this year. Oh, that was just gutting. And I wish it were possible to gather together to honor her life. I hope you can tell 2021 that we need a big, safe party in our near future. Wishing you well. Bye for now, Lisa. Okay, so you can just write to the year. You might have expletives for it. You might have gratitude for it. You might have all the things that conflict, and that's totally fine. So that's my first recommendation. Write a letter to 2020. My second one is to cut the cords, right? And this one's a little bit more in depth. It's a little more somatic, a little more imaginative for those of you that like that thing. Now, many of you, I think, have done cord cutting meditations and visualizations before. I love this image because it speaks to all the different energy centers, and I really like to scan through my body when I'm doing any kind of cord cutting ritual or practice. So in order to do this, you basically need a reflective space, right? Somewhere where ideally it's somewhat quiet, might be outside. I know many of you have kids, so maybe there's a time when they're kind of playing or somebody else is looking after them. Also a good time is right before bed. All right, so again, if you have kids, you might have put them to bed, or everyone else in the house is kind of winding down, and then you can be a little more internal. I did one yesterday that was less than 10 minutes, and I literally just looked on my Insight Timer app on my phone and checked out a few. The first one, the voice didn't really work for me. The second one was too long. I figured I'd fall asleep, so I picked a short one, and things came to my mind that I wasn't really aware of, even in that short amount of time. So again, of course you can go longer, but if you're an overachiever like me, you want to do like a 10-hour ritual, just 10, 15 minutes, find something ideally guided. You can look online. And usually when I do this, first thing is just to find that space where you can get quiet and you can focus your attention, right? And then from there, I'll often review the experience. So take even a minute. And you can kind of pseudo do a little bit of this with me right now, right? If you're in a space where you can, right? Be quiet and reflective. So you can just think about this year, right? Back to January. I actually I shared on social media this New Year's Day. I was really lucky to be in Maui in Hawaii. And if some of you know Black Rock, it's really beautiful and sacred space for the Hawaiians. Really beautiful rock out on the Nepali coast, on the northwest coast of Maui. And I have a little video that Alex took of me jumping into the water. And I posted it on social media saying, jumping into 2020, like, yay, right? And it's so funny because, like, if only I knew, right? If only I knew back then, I didn't. So it helps for me to think back to that moment of excitement and openness and eagerness, and then to trace through those early months of the year as the pandemic energy was building, to chase through the huge U-turn of March and all the ups and downs through then, and all the ways that we've adapted, I've adapted, things have changed. And all the beautiful things that are still happening. My brother got engaged, just happened. I'm gonna be an auntie, right? And I'm thinking about what's happened throughout the year in all levels, just noticing what comes to mind and what stands out. It might be kind of hard because this year was a little bit like Groundhog Day, right? Working from home, not going out too much, no big travels, things like that. But if there are any of those things for you, they probably stand out more. Like I got a haircut in August and it was epic. I had more fun there than I've had at any haircut my whole life. So once you've reviewed the experience, then start to visualize, like, what is it you want to let go of? And I think it's important to get really clear on this. Sure, when we don't know, we can just sort of do a general cleansing or releasing process. But I think when we hone in, we'll start to get a sense of what it is that we might feel tied to. So one thing that I regularly try to release is a sense of resistance against what's happening. So with this pandemic, it'd be easy to say, and I've said this, like, oh, I just want to be in the office and I just want to be seeing people, and sort of rubbing up against like what my day looks like and pushing against it. And so often I'll just try to release that resistance, soften it, brings a little more acceptance, right? So it might be an energy like that. It might be a person that you're letting go of. It might be a lifestyle or a role in your job that's changed. But just getting that moment of clarity after you've reviewed the experience that release, right? And as you're doing that, this was what was really powerful for me when I was doing this the other night. Notice the areas of your body that speak to you. And again, this is why I love the chakras and this diagram here on the right, scanning through bottom to top, top to bottom, just noticing where your attention gets pulled. I noticed a lot in my hips and in my lower back. And so you got to just kind of see what your body says, see what your energy says, and then you can respond to that in your imagination and in your clearing. So review, visualize, notice your body, and then we would go into actually cutting the cords that no longer serve you. So for cutting, you can imagine, a sword or scissors or fire burning them up or water washing them away. Some people don't like the cutting, I get it. So you clean up, like you're going to clean up. Maybe there's a magic wand you're imagining going around your body, or sage, or something that feels powerful to you. So cutting, releasing those cords that no longer serve you. And this can feel, depending on how you're oriented, this can feel like a very physical experience. You might notice tingling in your body. You might notice your posture change. All of that is welcome. And remember that you're always in control. So if you go to cut a cord and you hesitate, that's totally fine. You get to choose the tools you use. You get to choose whether or not you want to release something or it feels like the right time. This is all completely voluntary, right? So you can cut or clean up. And this last step, I think is really important. It's just replacing it, right? For me, I go to love or support or divine energy. Again, this is whatever feels right for you. But if I'm cutting a cord to my sacral chakra, I don't just want it to feel empty. Maybe it's self-sustaining. Maybe the energy is coming from within me. But you can also even place a hand on that area of your body, maybe your heart. I think this is big with loss and grief. We let something go and then it feels like there's nowhere to connect, right? So you could try, placing a hand or whatever feels best for you and replacing or holding that area, just like we would do. This was part of my early Reiki training too, just like we would do if something hurts, like you stub your toe, you want to put your hand on it, or we connect with ourselves. So that replacing can be an opportunity to physically connect with yourself, or just to invite that healing or helpful energy in. Okay, so that's cutting the cords. And the last one, and I do think I'm kind of presenting these in order. You don't have to do them in this order, of course, but this is the way that I've done it and that works well for me. The last one, no surprise, is to move your body. So I encourage you to ask a lot, what do you need? Ask, what does your body need? So sometimes we have like this expectation, oh, my yoga practice needs to look this certain way, or I have to walk or run this amount of distance, those 10,000 steps. And sometimes we struggle with our bodies just to do some of these things. And that's, a normal human process. But there's a lot of value in what we would call this bottom-up movement, in actually asking your body what it needs and then giving it that. So rather than from your brain to your body, oh, I've got to walk 10,000 steps. Oh, I should do this, I should do that. It's, hey body, what do you need right now? So it might need to walk or run or dance or do yoga or Tai Chi or swim or bike. Might need to play like an animal or with an animal. Might need something free form. Rest is, another thing here. It might not be exact, it might not be outward movement, but I would include that in, something your body might be requesting. So even like a restorative yoga practice or a shavasana might feel like what your body needs, right? I really love movement in all of its facets because I feel like it integrates something for me. It helps me move through experiences and release energy that's built up. One thing that I'll recommend, and this can be if you're like, I don't know what my body needs, or I don't, those things, like I try to go and do freeform dance and I just feel awkward. This one comes from improv, and we can do it together now as long as you're, probably most of you aren't driving at this point in 2020. It's called 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can actually even start at 10, but it's an improv exercise. And what you do is you just shake an arm, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Shake another arm, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You can join me if you want. Shake a leg, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. I feel like a dog when I do that. Shake the other leg, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And then you go 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, 1, 4, 3, 2, and again at 3, 3, 2, 1, 3, 2, 1, leg 2, 1, leg 2, 1, and then 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. It's kind of a silly way just to discharge some energy, move your body. You can add things into it if you want to kind of twist or shake your whole torso or roll your head a little too, obviously. But a lot of activation energy in terms of trauma goes to our arms and our legs. So I feel like that one's a good, just like, get it out, shake it off. Iris, who some of you know, my dog, she is great about shaking things off. So she'll be on the trail and she'll meet a new dog or, smell a new smell and get all excited. And then maybe we're like, okay, time to go. She shakes it off and then she keeps going. So I always look to animals for inspiration along these lines too. All right. So, and here's just, I wanted to pick an image that, this one's obviously beautiful, but it doesn't have to be like a performance dance, right? It's like, what shape does your body want to take? Does it want to draw in or expand out or lean down or lie down or invert? Any of that is fair game. So I've got some ideas as to how you can use the elements to support your release, and we'll go through each of the things we just covered and each of the elements. Okay, so the first one is earth. Now with the letter, you might want to bury the letter in a meaningful place. Might be time capsule style in your backyard, might be somewhere where someone or something is buried, anywhere where you just want to return it to the earth, obviously in an eco-friendly way as possible. Paper is pretty compostable. So you could bury it either protected so you could get it later or so that it could return to the earth. When you're doing the energy meditation and the cord cutting, you can send energy down into the earth to be recycled, right? The earth is recycling things all the time. There are fungi and organisms and all this stuff in the earth that's just recycling pretty much 24/7. So you can visualize that energy going down and getting absorbed. And in terms of movement, you might move barefoot on the earth, on the grass, in the mud. You might lie down on the earth. And as much as this can be a natural substance of the earth, like grass or dirt, great. But sometimes it even feels just good if you have a little concrete in your backyard just to go outside and get horizontal when in a place where you're a little bit more connected to the elements. So ideally on something natural, but if you can't, then there's benefit otherwise too. Fire. This probably won't be a surprise. Some of you have done this before. You can burn your letter, right? And I know we're super sensitive to air quality here in California, and we've had a lot of fires. So if you want to do it in, a fire within your home or something small in your backyard or really carefully at your kitchen, over your stove, I always have a big pot of water. I've done this a number of times. So if I'm going to burn a little piece of paper, I'll just have a big pot of water handy so that I can drop it in there, which kind of involves another element, but safety first, right? You can also, with the cords, visualize that fire. I mentioned this earlier, burning them up, right? Kind of singeing them into ash or into nothing. And if you don't like the fire element, you can imagine just heat, right? And this is like tapas, right? When we talk about yoga, tapas, not the Spanish appetizers, not the Spanish meals, but tapas means like burning, right? So like a burning zeal often. So when we create focused energy towards something and we bring heat to it, it's transformative, right? Heat can transform metal. So whether it's with the cords, with your body, visualizing or actually creating that heat in your body, there's something transformative about that. So notice as I go through these, which elements are speaking to you. And some of them you might just be like, no. I know some of you have lived through the fires this year and they're very traumatic. So you might just be like, not that one, not that one. You might need the opposite, something that balances it. So if you've got too much earth, right? If you're feeling really heavy or lethargic, or you're in general a really earthy person, something like an air element might be more helpful for you. So with the air element, I'll actually, like I said earlier, read a letter out loud, speak it into the wind, and then it disappears. And you can decide what to do with the paper. With the chords, you can let air clear your energetic body. So if it's a windy day, I like to just go out if I'm on the top of a hill, or if there's a gust of wind, I'll just open my arms out to the side and let it pass me. Similar with what I was saying earlier, we can resist the cold, resist the wind. But I like to also just accept it and let it brush everything off. And then with movement, you might want to release through breath, right? That cleansing of the exhale, or open towards the sky and connect with the air elements above you. That might feel a little more inspiring, right? The breath in can feel inspiring as well. And then for water, again, if you've had some trauma around fire, this might be a good place to go. With the letter, you can flush it away, again, as eco-friendly as you can. If you're putting it into natural water sources, make sure you're using recycled paper or banana leaf, or inks that aren't toxic to creatures. You can also flush it down the toilet. That might not sound so glamorous, but most of us have a toilet or somewhere that we can deposit it. And this one can actually feel really good, especially if it's just been a really shitty year. You just put it where it's meant to go. So some people I know like to tear things up, right, before you burn them or before you flush them. So you can release it to the water element in the best way that you find. Makes me think too of the message in a bottle that people used to do. I don't know, I haven't seen a lot of that lately, but it's like in cartoons as a kid, you used to find the little letter in a bottle, just releasing something out. In terms of chords, you might soak in a bath or your favorite water source. I'm a big fan of going to oceans, streams, lakes. I love it all. Personal preference, right? If you have that opportunity and you can do it, if it feels right, go for it. And then with movement, we can move in a very fluid way. We can explore our own adaptability. What I love about the water element and release is our bodies are made up of so much water, and we think of them as so static, like I am this form, right? But the water and the elements and everything within our body is moving and changing all the time. So connecting with that water element, connecting with the fluidity of that and the turnover of that can actually be reassuring in some ways. So for movement, explore what feels good, move like water, move in a fluid way, and just connect to that water element, even if it's really far away. I know some of you are right in the middle of America. You might have a river or a creek, or you might not. So you can also just invoke that element. Okay, so that's using the elements to support your release. We're just going to go for a few minutes. Release creates space. So once you've done one or all or any of these rituals, I encourage you then to pause, because it's really American, and maybe some other cultures, I know not all of you are here in the States, it's really American to just fill the space, right? And to work, work, work. And this is a time of year where hopefully we can take a little time off, we can pause, and we can embrace some space. And I think we'll have more of that this year with not so many familial engagements, right? So after you release, pause and look at, there's an opportunity here, right? Just to sit with yourself and to develop in a whole new way. So in that reflective space, how was maybe what you've released comforting to you? How was it not? Maybe you're just no longer willing to feed it. You can make some of these conscious choices to keep your space rather than fill it. And then when the time comes, right? Maybe it's a few weeks after the end of this year, maybe it's when the 2021 energy comes, the new year energy, you'll have more of a centered orientation, right? to listen to what's true for you now, to follow the call really of your own soul, of your own heart, of your own being. So just know that you might notice an impulse to replace with busyness or with something that's somewhat addictive, right? Watching videos on your phone, and as much as you can, give yourself a little bit of room in between before you move on to what's next. All right, so a little moment of suspension in the air before you dive in. All right, so we covered 3 things. First one, right to it. Second one, cut the cords. Third one, move your body. All right, and you can get support from the elements in whatever way feels best for you. Coming up, a couple things. I'm going to send you this recording via email. We've got a holiday break, and I am definitely taking the last 2 weeks of the year to be away from the screen. As much as I love that we can all connect this way, I'm going to be taking a break. So I hope you are too and getting what you need there. And then next year we start up with an 8-week online training program on 1/11, so January 11th. If that's something you've been interested in, you can apply at howwecanheal.com/Y4T. And there's an enrollment increase starting next year that goes into effect next Sunday, the 20th. So just be aware of that if you've been thinking about applying. Now, I won't end without giving away one of my books, because I really appreciate you guys spending your time with me here. So let's go to the little Q&A box, up top, right, or down bottom, depending on how your screen's set up. And I'm going to give away, I don't think I have that many copies of Embodied Healing left. I only have like 2. So I'm going to give away a copy of Yoga for Trauma Recovery. So go ahead and put your name and email into the Q&A box, and then I'll give you a second to do that, and then I will pick a winner after I take a sip out of my 2020 mug. Okay, let's go for it. Terry Conroy, you are a winner. I'm going to send you a copy of Yoga for Trauma Recovery. So the chat is confidential. You can't see, other people can't see your answer. If you could go ahead and put your address in there, I'll get that shipped out to you ASAP, Terry. Congratulations. And because everyone else, I want you all to be a winner. You might even already have a copy of How You Can Heal, the book in the middle here. I will email you guys out a copy of that, and I'll include you, Terry, on that too. So Embodied Healing is the one that I don't have that many left of. So maybe I'll get some more, and then I can give one away next time. That was my first book baby. All right, everyone. Thanks for being here. I want to send you all my love and support as you release. And I want to just remind you to care for each other. Here's a little picture of me and Iris. She's got her eye on something across the street. But remember that during these next few weeks and this end of the year, coming back to care, whether it's for yourself or for animals or for other people, I know that can get a little bit exhausting if you're a parent, but really connecting with that quality of care is really good for our systems and tends to be helpful in trauma recovery when we can connect. So if you're not sure what to do, if you've done all the release rituals, if you're having a hard day, see if you can tend to a plant or an animal or yourself, or have a sweet moment with a child or a family member as an anecdote to all of that, even if it's virtual, right? Something's better than nothing. All right, so thank you guys. It's been great to be here with you. And I've got another minute or two. If you have a question, you're welcome to put it into the question box. Any questions about the rituals, how to do them, where to go from here? I gotta scroll down. Oh, you're welcome, Julia. Beth, oh my God, I haven't seen you in forever. Thank you, Terry. I got your address. You're welcome, Abby, Sheila, Mariella. Oh, good. I'm glad you enjoyed it. Jessica, you can still put your email address in if you want a copy of How You Can Heal. All right, so let me just finish scrolling down and make sure I'm not missing any questions. I think we're good. All right, everybody, take good care. Wonderful to see you. Happy end of 2020. And Happy 2021. Oh, Adrienne, yes. You can watch this. Yeah, a couple people missed the beginning. Yes, we'll send out the recording so you can watch the rest. Okay. All right. So Suzanne, Adrienne, I'll send it out. Good. All right. Thank you, Terry. I'm glad this was helpful. All right. Lots of love to all of you. Take good care. Happy 2020. Happy 2021. Bye now. I'll show my full face. Bye, everybody.